Hello, amazing artists. It's Kelly Folsom here. Welcome back to another Art Life Conversations podcast. So excited to be here with all of you today. And did you know that you are amazing? Did you know that what you do, artist, is amazing? Did you know that the work that you create is awesome and is changing the world? Not only does it change you as you change and grow with it, every single painting that you do is making a powerful contribution to the world. I just wanted you to know that, because if you didn't know that, you need to know that and start claiming that and walking in that every single day. Okay, so today we have an amazing topic and question that came in from the lovely Kara Lemons. Thank you, Kara, so much for your questions, and everybody who has started sending in questions and topics that they would like to have discussed here on Art Life Conversations. If you have something you want to have discussed, just email me, info@artlifewithkelly, KELLI.com, and let's get this party started. All right, so Kara Lemon says, how do I officially transition from hobbyist to professional artist? A well-meaning friend recently congratulated me on my amazing hobby. Although I know she meant well, I hate the H word. I love that. I know I am an early career artist, but I am trying to show up as a professional, and I am constantly working my butt off to produce the highest quality art I can. How can I respond as nicely as possible to the two sets of people who tend to use the H word? People who knew me before I was an artist, and good old boy professional artist. That's funny. So I'm laughing because it's so true. All right, who seem to think you have to have an art degree and or have been painting for 30 years to have paid your dues and earned that title. It sometimes feels as if I have to go to art school just to get credibility. Should I assume that my art isn't good enough yet and that the title will follow when I am? Or are there attributes of a professional artist that I can do to develop, or I think there's a word missing there, but that's okay, to develop and display now to shake the hobbyist label? Oh my gosh, this is so juicy. And actually there's so many layers to this that you already brought out, right? So becoming a professional artist, especially as a woman, because you even brought up the good old boy thing. There's so many layers to this. So gosh, where to begin? And you also, Kara, kind of hit on, really the most important aspect, and that is that your actions are in alignment with the direction you want to go, with the self-image, the artistic identity and artistic image that you are creating for yourself, right? Sorry about that, my computer. Just giving me a little notice there. So that's the most important piece, is that you are in integrity with that. Your daily actions are lining up with the image that you are creating for yourself, first internally, because if we don't embody it internally and we don't believe in it internally, then the outside world will never respond as well, right? But the most important piece is that internal piece, because we really are not in control of how others perceive us, right? And also others' judgments of us. For example, if we don't have an art degree, right? And they maybe somebody out there allows that in their perception to knock us down a notch. It says more about them more than it does about us, right? So if they believe that you have to have an art degree or have been an artist for 30 years to be a real artist, well, that says more about them. It's more about them validating themselves and also kind of knocking you down a peg so that they feel a little bit better about themselves, right? It really is just coming from an ego place and a place of status. So I guess that's the first thing I want to say is like, no matter what our quote unquote credentials are, it really, what matters most is how we feel on the inside, you know? And so if there's any piece there for you, for any of us as artists on the inside that feels like we're not as good as, right? We're not as qualified. We're not as credible, you know, as another professional artist. I think that's really the first thing to clear up within yourself. When we are able to do that, and we can do that just by getting quiet, you know, just by getting quiet and letting those things come up, letting those emotions, maybe any self-doubt that's still existing there, come up so that we can process them, deal with them, and get on with our, you know, get into alignment with our future self-image as an artist that we want to be, you know, the lifestyle we're wanting to create, you know, the professionalism we're wanting to create for ourselves as an artist, right? So first and foremost is just clearing up anything, because when people say things like that, it can really bring up some internal, or not bring up, but like shine a light, really just kind of shine a light on any insecurities that we may still have within ourselves that we need to clean up for ourselves, you know. So, and then the other piece of this, you know, you mentioned, I'll just reread it here. But you said, I'm trying to show up as a professional and I'm constantly working my butt off to produce the highest quality work that I can. And these people knew me before I was an artist. So one thing I'll say about whether it's family, friends, community members, people that did know us before we were artists, right? For those people, they have a totally different version of you in their minds. And I know I've experienced this too, you know, because I didn't go straight out of high school into becoming an artist. You know, I waited, you know, a good decade before doing that. And I noticed this too, that people who knew me from my past, whether that was family members or past friends or past acquaintances, I, even with a degree, I felt like I kind of got treated that way. Like, and I think part of it is, I hate to say this, but part of it is also being a woman. I think women artists do get treated a little bit less seriously sometimes, you know, like, oh, good, she found something to do with herself, you know? Oh, wow, I'm glad she found something that makes her happy, you know, rather than, man, she is like serious. She is serious about her art. She takes her art seriously. She's a professional. So sometimes these people from the past, they don't quite understand where you're going with this yet, you know. They just haven't had enough time to acclimate, and some of them may never acclimate to this new career you have built for yourself, right? This new identity, this new path and journey that you are on, that you yourself are taking very seriously. And so sometimes it can just take time for those people from the past to kind of get it, right? But they may never get it, and that's okay. I still have people in my life that just don't quite get, you know, what I'm doing. Like, oh, she just, you know, she's painting pretty pictures, you know, she loves to paint, you know. It's almost like this perception. Obviously I'm not in their head, so I can't know everything that they're thinking, but it's almost like this perception, like, oh, we're just kind of sitting around and going about our day and doing our little things, and then we get inspired to paint a little something, you know. But, you know, I know for myself with friends and family, I've had to really, I don't want to say set boundaries, but really teach people who I am, and therefore teach people how to treat me, right? Because if I don't kind of set the record straight, I guess you might say, then they might still continue having that opinion of me, right? So even sometimes with my family, they kind of would have like this perception that because I work for myself, because I'm self-employed, and I'm an artist, I have like all the freedom in the world, and I can just drop whatever I'm doing and just, fly off for a home visit at last minute notice. And, I've had to tell them like, no, that's not the case. I actually have a schedule. I have events planned for the year, for my art business. So, I let them know that, hey, I wish I would have known about this more in advance, because I could have planned around it, but I can't come to that. I can't do that, because I've already planned something else that's really important to me, that's really serious to me in my art business. So it's important that I follow through on that obligation, that I hit this goal, So sometimes to a certain degree, it is educating them, right? And really understanding that they don't, having compassion enough to understand they don't understand. Part of it too could be an age thing, if you're a woman and you're married or you've had a past career, maybe you're close to that retirement age. It could just be that society is not set up that way, right? Like the nature of society is not set up to where, all of a sudden at 50, 60 years old, you're like, I'm starting a whole new thing. I'm starting a whole new career, and I am serious about it, and I am a professional, and I am acting as a professional. Most people at that age are just, they're just settling in, right? Like they have done their career, they've done their professional life perhaps. And so maybe it's just like out of the ordinary for them, and they are just seeing it as like, oh, your hobby. So you can start to educate them. I know you asked, Kara, how can I respond as nicely? First of all, I wouldn't worry so much about being nice. To me, that's also another female thing. Not that we have to be a bitch or be rude or anything like that, but I know for myself, over the last decade, I've really had to learn how to be less passive and just more direct. Speaking more directly and less passively, not using words like hope, oh, I hope I can do that, or not, oh, I'm sorry, things like that. Not using language like that, but just like being more direct and to the point. Sometimes we can see that as being more masculine or more alpha, but I just don't think that's the case, I don't even see that as feminine or masculine energy. I just see it as like, I'm just being direct. I'm just being truthful and honest, right? And I'm not apologizing for who I am. I'm not beating around the bush about who I am and what I want in this life. So I know you said, you said, how can I respond as nicely as possible to the two sets of people who tend to use the H word, hobby? I would just watch yourself, your language. So if somebody were to say to me, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that, you have found a hobby that you really love, I think you have to say directly back to them, not in defense. So that's where cleaning up first any feeling of resentment, any feeling of defensiveness within ourselves first before we reply to people like that, because otherwise, that kind of energy is in there, that defensive energy, that resentful energy can be in there, and people will feel it, and basically, if we come at it with that kind of energy, people are going to feel like we're accusing them of doing something wrong, and nobody likes to be wrong. Nobody likes to be accused of doing something wrong. And so that's when they might come back and go, oh gosh, okay, Miss Defensive, you've always been so sensitive, or they might not do that. They might even, say, oh gosh, I didn't realize that, So basically first you got to make sure that you're not coming from a place of being defensive or offended or anything like that. You got to really clean that up within yourself, before you respond. But basically, I would just respond with, yes, this is my second career. I'm starting my new, art career. I've wanted to do this my whole life, and now I'm able to do it, and I'm really going for it. And I've got some big goals. So it's really a matter of your language, the words that you're using, and in a sense, kind of being vulnerable. I mean, it is being vulnerable whenever you share with people, like, I'm actually really serious about this. I'm getting high quality education. I am working this like I'm working a full-time job. I'm showing up every day. I'm putting in the hours. I'm exhibiting, and then of course, like you say, making sure that your actions are in alignment with the goal that you're pursuing, the professional art goal that you're pursuing. So you make sure I've got a professional website and professional social media set up, right? I'm not just posting on my personal page, right? I'm not mixing personal life posts, for example, with my art post, right? So I'm actively marketing myself as a professional artist. My language is in alignment with that. I'm not speaking from a passive place, or even if you're learning, even if you're studying and educating yourself, not speaking like a student, right? Not speaking like a hobby artist would, or like even a student artist would, right? I don't really know the difference between that, but I mean, because in a sense, we're all lifelong students, right? We are always studying. I still study and take classes, with artists who I really admire. And sometimes it's just for me to like get out of my own box and to get inspired, by somebody else. But you'll never hear me speaking like a student. And sometimes this in and of itself takes some time, to transition, because even after I graduated art college, I was still presenting myself as a student, and I was really still speaking student words, just in my air, in my sense of confidence, and it took quite a while for me, had nothing to do with anything outside of me. It took quite a while for me to really believe that I was a real professional, confident woman artist, and to really own that fully and own who I was fully, and not look at another artist just because they had 30 more years experience than me as being, somehow more qualified or more credible, right? So that change and that transition has to happen internally first within yourself, And I can also tell you from my past experience, of course, you can get some of the credibility pieces. You can get into shows. You can win awards, right? And I know for me, I thought, well, if I stack up enough of these awards, enough of these shows, that will make me feel more credible. That will make me feel more professional and more confident. And I will say it can help, right? Like, I'm not going to say that it doesn't help, right? Because you're taking professional actions. You're acting like a professional. You're showing up like a professional. So in that way, those kinds of actions, it's not really the results that matter so much. It's not really getting into the show so much that matters, or getting into the gallery so much that matters, or getting the award so much that matters, as it is that you are taking the daily actions, showing up in your life as a professional artist. How does a professional artist act? What do they do? What do they do day to day? How do they treat their business, right? Because professional artists take seriously their art business. How do they treat their marketing? They're not professional artists who are really serious about how their work is, the longevity of their work, the legacy of their work, how the quality of their work, how it's perceived. They don't sit around saying, oh, I wish I could just paint. all the time. We all know as professional artists that there's a business side to it. And so we accept that, fully. We accept it. We might not like everything that we have to do. Just same thing with painting. We don't love everything about creating our art, right? There's always hard parts to it. So I would also encourage you, really get clear, who is Kara as a professional artist? How does she show up? What does she do on a daily basis? What are her attitudes? What are her language? What's her language? Get a future. Not even a future, it's now. It's the here and now. It's like a guidebook for how you want to show up and make sure that your actions and your thoughts and emotions internally are in alignment with that professional artist that you are becoming. You're really becoming, right? Day to day to day. So in terms of the other people and whatever, they're going to think or say, you can always, come back and say something to them. If they say hobby word, you can just very simply and directly say, actually, this isn't just my hobby. This is my second career and I'm pursuing it, with full time, if you want to say full time, however much you are pursuing it, and I really have some high goals for this that I'm working towards every day. And it's all coming to place. I'm building a new artistic career for myself, right? So you can just respond like that, because they might just think that for them, maybe it would just be a hobby. So sometimes it's just a matter of being bold and also vulnerable. I say bold because vulnerability takes courage. It takes so much courage to be vulnerable and honest with people and to do it in a loving, non-judgmental way, not making them wrong for thinking what they thought or for what they said. But just going, I just wanted to clear this up with you about my art. I just want you to let you guys know that my art is not a hobby. I'm not pursuing it as a hobby or a pastime or just a time filler. I'm actually pursuing this as a career. And here's what I'm doing, and in that way, you really invite them to be a part of it if they desire to be. You invite them to kind of participate and to really understand this new endeavor in this new world that you're embarking on for yourself. So that's it, Kara. I hope that is helpful to you and to everybody else. It starts internally first, and then your actions and your language, how you present yourself. I mean, all of that will educate the people around you. And, other folks who are always going to label you something no matter what, the old boys club, oh, you don't have a degree, oh, you're an older woman learning to paint. Gosh, there's a bazillion of those, all the hobby artists, all the Sunday painters, So those people are going to think whatever they're going to think based on, whatever their society and culture preconceptions are, and however it, kind of self-serves their ego. So there's really nothing, even other women artists, that you might be studying with, there's really nothing that you can do necessarily to change their mind. In fact, for me, as an art instructor, one thing that I really aim to, and I even am really uncomfortable now using the word student. Now I am trying to just call my artists because they are, they're not artists in training. They're not students, they're artists, they might be in my program learning from me, but I'm just there as like a facilitator. I'm just there as a conduit for them, to reach that next level for themselves. So I really don't have any interest in being above them, right? I want them, the artists in my community in the Art Life School. That's part of the reason why too I call it the Art Life School. I want them to reach their full potential, and to create this new self-image for themselves as artists. And I have no interest whatsoever in, lording over them or saying, oh, you're not there yet, or, and I will say this too, like, if somebody is pursuing this as a hobby, like, that's also totally fine. Go for it, do it, like, have a great time. If you don't have any interest from going from hobbyist to pro, for anybody out there who's in that situation, like, just be who you are, be authentic. Have the courage to show up for what it is that you really, really want, what's really true for you in this life. And that may be for a lot of you that you don't want to be a professional artist, and that is totally fine and okay. Being a professional artist is no better than doing it, as a pastime or as a hobby, right? So I just want to, say that too. But at the end of the day, we just don't have any control over somebody else's perception of us. We can communicate with love directly, clearly. We can try to educate. We can show up in alignment. But there's always, haters gonna hate, right? There's always gonna be somebody out there who doesn't like what you're doing or doesn't think very highly of you. And again, it really says more about them than it does about you. Totally. It's funny, I just had somebody who commented on an Instagram post of mine the other day, and he said, boy, is that ugly. And I just thought it was so funny, But I also thought, oh gosh, I feel so bad for this person because it's just a reflection of who they are on the inside. The fact that I thought, well, it's a reflection that you're ugly on the inside, and I feel bad for you for that because that sucks. It sucks to, have that ugliness on the inside and that it's just spewing out of you like that, that kind of criticism and looking to do things like that. It's, I have compassion for it because it's like, gosh, it would suck to be that person and just stuck in that mess and that grossness, So anyways, thank you all so much for being here. I hope that this has helped you in some way. Just as a side note, just make sure that your actions and your internal emotions are lining up with the identity that you are trying to achieve, with the goals that you are trying to achieve. And a lot of these issues will begin to resolve themselves. For those of you who aren't aware, Art Life School is open for enrollment right now. Yes, it is. And I help artists from all levels, from beginners to advanced artists. I help artists in learning how to paint if they're a beginner, learning how to find their artistic voice and their artistic their own personal artistic identity if they're at the intermediate level, and for advanced artists really stepping more fully into that professional level, building your art business and business courses and things like that as well. So get whatever you need from me out of the program so that you can ascend to that next level in your art life. You can go to artlifewithkelly, KELLI.com, and get registered. So go check it out. Check out all the details, everything that you get in the Art Life School. And I'm constantly adding new things as well. Okay, my friends, wishing you all a happy creating, and I'll see you next week. Bye.